Hey, vinyl community. As I film this, it's a couple days after our local record fair, which happens twice a year. Um, as a lot of you know, as I've said before, I'm a vendor as well as a buyer. But as the years go on, man, it gets harder and harder to be a vendor. What did I have this year? I had, as a vendor, I had 4 6-foot tables, 4 8-foot tables. I don't remember, but that's a lot of records to lug in and out of my house. And like I said, as the years go on, it's man, it seems to get harder and harder. But you know what? By all accounts, everything was a complete success this time around. And I need to thank my wife because of my bum back. She was able to help me out a lot this year. So I want to say thank you to her. And thank you to everyone. Everyone who stopped by my tables and said hi. People who recognized me from my videos. And of course, I'm half brain dead, so I'm forgetting half of your names. I apologize for that. But anyways, this year, as a buyer, I went in with a plan for the first time ever. This is the least amount I've ever bought at a record fair since I was probably a teenager when I had monetary limits. But like I said, I went in with a plan. I went in to find one record, and I went in to find a bunch of singles. And I'll get to why that is in a second. But once again, it was good. A lot of the names I'm going to mention won't mean anything to you unless you're local. But it was great seeing a lot of local people I don't see all the time. I saw Benny from Benny's Records. I saw Yuri from the Dead Vinyl Society. It's always nice talking to him. Terry at E-Rock. I'm going to leave people out. I know it. So, you know, it was really great seeing a lot of people. Oh, Jeffrey Penner. Jeffrey Penner was their local guy who... is the absolute master of the singles in my city. So he was there as a vendor. So it was great to talk to Jeffrey, or Jeff, sorry, Jeffrey. It's very presumptuous of me to call you Jeffrey. But anyways, good seeing everyone. Okay, so really quickly before I show you what I got, and it's not a lot, like I said, but it's more quality over quantity this year. What I'm compiling, and this is kind of what the inspiration was. If you go on YouTube, there's a... I think it aired on BBC, possibly Channel 4. I can't remember, whatever your channels are in the UK. But there was a TV show called John Peel's Record Box, and before John Peel died, if you don't know John Peel, very influential radio DJ who died some years ago. But upon his death, he was kind of, I guess, he's kind of more or less in the middle of compiling one single box of his favorite singles of all time. Not the best. The best and your favorite are, like I always say, are definitely two different things. But his favorite singles, and I guess it's kind of more or less like a legacy box. And then he died, and he left this box there. And there's a really good YouTube show. So I'm going to pull my chair in a little bit. There we go. A little bit more comfy. Like I said, upon his death, he left this box. And if you go on YouTube and watch that program, it's really interesting because, like I said, there's a lot of choices that were in his box that you wouldn't necessarily think, which is great. It's a great insight into John Peel. And I started doing that. I started creating a box of my favorite singles of all time, things that are meaningful to me for one reason or another. And it could be 60s garage, it could be 80s new wave, it covers the whole, I don't know, all the genres possible. And I guess, you know, when I leave this earth, it's a box for my kids, for my wife, anything. And it's kind of a glimpse into, you know, what meant a lot to me. So I went in, and I've been filling a lot of holes that things I've been missing or need upgrade copies or whatever of singles that will go into that box. And that's the focus of what I went into this record fair with. I had a list of records, and thankfully, another name I'm going to drop that you might not know, but Mark, who runs the Calgary Record Fair, was able to source these out for me, a lot of these singles. So I want to thank Mark for that. So thank you, Mark. And then I went in. So besides the singles I wanted for that box, I know that box sounds morbid, but the prospect of having a box of singles that are meaningful to you, you know, if your life's all about the music. It kind of seemed attractive to me for one reason or another, just to leave something for everyone to kind of know what I was, you know, kind of sums up my life in a box of records, more or less. So, and then I went in to find one record. And at the end of this video, I'm going to talk to you about Record Store Day very briefly. And I've reconsidered Record Store Day a bit, and I want to get to that, and hopefully you'll stay to the end and watch that, because I feel that I kind of had a little bit of an epiphany, more or less, about Record Store Day and how I'm buying Record Store Day products, albums, whatever. One more drink, and then we're going to get to the records I got at the record fair. But before that, really quickly, I got one new album to show you, and I've been on the hunt for this record for a while. I'm going to try to be brief so I can get to the record fair stuff. But what I didn't realize is my Amazon Prime app comes, I guess their version of Netflix. They have Amazon Prime Video, which I've never bothered to download. I don't watch movies a lot anymore. I watch documentaries. Maybe that's just age. I'm turning one of those old guys who just watches war documentaries, which I don't. I watch music documentaries. But I downloaded the Amazon app to see what they had to offer. And there was a documentary I saw on there called 808. Incredibly great documentary. If you have a chance to see it, see it. You have to kind of, even if you don't like the music, it's very interesting. It's the history of the 808 drum machine. And it's on surface levels, might sound boring. But it's incredibly interesting how it started and how it absolutely changed music. And then I probably watched that documentary 5 times. And then at some point, I started making a list of all the records they were featuring in that documentary that featured the 808 that kind of, influenced a lot of music to come. And then I realized, well, maybe they have a soundtrack. It never occurred to me. Maybe there was a soundtrack for this documentary, and there is. And sourcing the vinyl, that was really hard. I'm not sure if it's out of print, but Amazon has a listing for it. And I emailed them, and they said they were getting more stock, but they just never have. I think it's maybe on its way out. It's being deleted. But lo and behold, I went to a local record store, and then I was looking through their clearance vinyl, and there it is, a copy of the 808 soundtrack on vinyl. And there's no way they could feature all the music from that documentary onto 2 records, but man, they did a really good job. And I was so stoked to find this. As you can tell, music I listen to is kind of all over the place, as you'll see by this pile of records I'm going to show you. But there's African Bambaataa and Beastie Boys, Public Enemy. Then it goes into the electro, like Man Parrish and Strafe and 808 State, and then Felix the House Cat, even a little bit modern stuff. But I think they have a Little John song, which, whatever. But anyways, 808 soundtrack, I was absolutely thrilled to find this because it saves me a lot of money having to source out the individual singles I was going to get. I think I have Planet Rock anyways, and a few other of these singles. But man, I haven't opened it yet. I just got it, to be honest with you. And if you saw my last video, I'm just getting my stereo back together now after we're cleaning up from that little flood mess. But I'll be able to play records right away. So anyways, 808 soundtrack. Fantastic. If you've not seen that documentary, if that is even a modicum of interest to you, please watch it. It was incredibly interesting. So this is the one full-length vinyl record I went to find. And I have to thank a YouTube channel, Back to Vinyl. I hope you're watching this. Hello. He featured it in one of his videos. It came out for Record Store Day, and I believe it was UK only. And I believe a few other people were showing it for their Record Store Day hauls, and it never came out here. And the cover is so striking, I thought the music has to be fantastic. It would take a lot of balls to have a cover this great and then not have the music to back it up. But the way they were describing it was stoner rock, psychedelic, space rock. It just piqued my interest for whatever reason. This is what's great about the vinyl community. People feature these albums and you discover things that you may not know about. I thought, man, that sounds kind of up my alley. So thank you to Back to Vinyl and the other people who featured this album. But I think the Record Store Day title was 500 limited. I don't think I was going to find that one. So I thought, on my list of records, this was the only one full-length record on there. First thing, I load in, get my table set up. The vendor behind me, I went looking through his records. He had a copy. And this is The Heads. And I got to get this title right. Everybody Knows We Got Nowhere. He had a copy of it in his bins. And what this is, The Heads, if you don't know The Heads, this is the cover that everyone was showing. It's very striking. And he told me it was an original pressing, which I don't think it is. I think it's a repress. But I did go on and online and stream this album, and it is maybe one of the best stoner rock psychedelic albums I've heard in a long, long time. And I know I'm kind of behind the game a bit discovering this band, but whatever. So if I get my facts right, this band is from Bristol, England, and I think they were formed in about 2000. They've released so many records. It's like Ty Segall, or is it King Gizzard, or I don't. You know that band. They release an album every 2 months, but these guys have 20 albums out apparently. But this one in particular, people were showing and recommending to me, and this is just an absolute fantastic record. And the luck of finding it. It was the only record on my list, and this guy from, I believe he was a vendor from Calgary, oddly enough, he had a copy. And I was just like, okay, well, the doors aren't even open yet, and I've found my one record. So I want to thank you all who turned me on to this album. I'm gonna screen cap this one. Fantastic, fantastic record. It's noisy, it's psychedelic, it's space rock, it's stoner rock. I haven't heard the other stuff because I still have to digest this album fully, but man, like I said, I want to thank everyone and thank that vendor who had a copy. And he didn't even want a lot of money for it. That's the thing. I was just amazed. So let's get to these singles, the aforementioned singles that, a couple of these aren't for that, but I found the singles for next to nothing. These were the records I went specifically to find, filling holes for that box that, like I said, Mark, the vendor from Calgary, who runs the Calgary Record Fair, was able to source out for me. And a couple of these, like I said, were from other vendors. Were from Jeff Penner, I believe, the gentleman I mentioned earlier. Anyways, I've got a copy of Blondie. Picture this. This is the UK pressing in the yellow vinyl. Picture this was from Parallel Lines. It's probably one of my favorite Blondie songs, and maybe one of the most challenging vocal songs you'll hear of the time. And Debbie Harry is an amazing, very underrated vocalist. I mean, people concentrate on her looks, but for her to pull that song off is just absolutely amazing. And maybe one of my favorite Blondie songs. Anyways, the UK yellow vinyl 7-inch single for Picture This by Blondie. Have a look at that. Copy of Bauhaus, She's in Parties. Maybe my favorite Bauhaus track, because I think that was the first Bauhaus track I was ever introduced to. More or less, I don't know. I don't play it so much DJing anymore. In the right venue, I do play it. But anyways, like I said, my favorite Bauhaus track. This is an original UK pressing of the 7-inch single from Bauhaus. That was from their last album before they initially broke up, called Burning from the Inside. Bauhaus. This one has been on my want list forever and ever and ever and ever. It's an original UK pressing of Joy Division's Love Will Tear Us Apart on Factory Records. This is the UK pressing, obviously. So I've wanted this forever. I've been putting it off. It's not the rarest thing to find, but then again, it's not the easiest thing to find. So to finally find a copy of this was really amazing for me. So an original copy of Love Will Tear Us Apart, backed with 3 Days from Joy Division. This one is more or less, you know what? I've talked about my Depeche Mode collection, but there's certain singles I don't have certain variants of, and et cetera, et cetera. But I've never actually had an original copy of this in a picture sleeve, oddly enough. But I got a copy of Just Can't Get Enough by Depeche Mode, UK copy. That goes in the box. When people talk The Cure, people name check a lot of their kind of mid-'80s songs, you know, Just Like Heaven. Well, Just Like Heaven was a little bit later on, but, you know, Boys Don't Cry, stuff like that. But one of my favorite Cure albums is an album called Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me. And there was a song on that album that it's very not typical of The Cure, very upbeat. I do play this on DJing all the time. It's very dance floor. And it's probably one of my favorite Cure songs. It's a song called Hot, Hot, Hot. And I was able to find a promo single for Hot, Hot, Hot by The Cure. That one was definitely on my list of records to go in the box. This one, I was absolutely thrilled to find this. This was from another vendor, but it was on my list of records to find anyways for that. Keep on talking about this box of records, but it's kind of the focus of what I'm doing right now. I got a copy of the X-Ray Specs, Oh Bondage Up Yours, an original UK copy on Virgin Records. I love the X-Ray Specs. The other singles I got, like I said, these were just extras. This one will probably go in the box. It's a copy of U2. It's a jukebox single, I believe, for U2's Discotheque. I've talked about this a lot. It's not a popular opinion, but I love the U2 album Pop. Whatever, I like it. Everyone's allowed to like different stuff. But I really do like the song Discotheque by U2. And this was a gaping hole in my singles collection, was that single. So these were from a local guy named Jeff Kenner, like I talked about. So U2's Discotheque. And I'll tell you a little secret. There's a lot of people who, if you are a collector of singles, you know. You can tell that a copy is an jukebox single because jukeboxes tend to destroy the B-side. And I don't know if you can see that. There's a lot of wear on the B-side. So if you find a single and you're always finding the B-sides all completely roached, thanks, Jay, for the word roached. That's because it's an ex-DJ single or ex-jukebox single. And jukeboxes tend to destroy the B-side of a single. So, yeah, a little tip for you if you didn't know that. A copy of T-Rex by the Light of the Magical Moon on Blue Thumb Records. These were only like a couple bucks a piece, oddly enough. And this one is a promo copy of the Knack, My Sharona. It's a promo radio station copy. And if you look, like a lot of these 70s, early 80s singles, the radio station promo copies had a stereo mix, and then they had a mono mix. There's a mono mix right there. And I thought I would, you know, slay my wife with some awesome knowledge that would really impress her and would further her feelings that I'm a complete nerd. So I asked my wife, so why do you think that radio station copies would have a mono mix on the 7-inch single back to the stereo mix? And she got it right away. So she knew that AM radio had to have a mono mix. So it was designed for AM radio. And obviously AM radio is not stereo, so a mono mix would sound better on AM radio. And yeah, and I was just impressed that she knew. So there you go. My failed attempt in not impressing my wife. All right. Some records I got. Where did I get? I've been on a hunt for this one for a while. It's an original 12-inch single for Fool's Gold by Stone Roses. Stone Roses singles, man, they are hard to find. And this really wasn't expensive. It's still in the shrink odd. I always say the word oddly enough. That's annoying me. Anyways, Stone Roses Fool's Gold original 12-inch single. I got a badly needed upgrade of Depeche Mode's New Life, an original UK pressing. And if you look closely, some of you might know this. See this baby? That was taken from a Life magazine article. And this is the same baby used for Black Sabbath Born Again. Same photo. All they did for Black Sabbath Born Again, they just made it red, added the horns and the fingernails. Boom, different album cover, same photo. Depeche Mode, Black Sabbath. More useless trivia for you. This one, I only got two more. This one I've been after for a long time because I say this all the time. I sell records. I don't keep track of what I sell. I can't be arsed. I sold this a couple of record fairs ago, and then I went to play it not too long ago, and I sold it. So I've been on the hunt for this record, but it's not the easiest record to find here in Canada. It was a copy of The Mind Bomb. Johnny Marr from The Smith plays guitar in this album. It's probably one of the best The albums. But this didn't cost me anything. A vendor traded me, what did I trade for him? I traded this straight up for a copy of Def Leppard's High and Dry. So that was a good trade. I would trade that any day, for Def Leppard. And then this was in a $2 bin. I showed their first album not too long ago, but it's a psych band from Long Island, New York called The Hassles. And I can't remember what video it was now, but short story long. The Hassles, like I said, a psych band from New York. I think they had 2 albums. But this was the first band of one Billy Joel. So now I have both Hassle albums, and this one was $2. So that was a really cool find. I didn't go there to find that. It was just there in a $2 bin. That's all I got to show you. This is a record low for a record fair, but you know what? I made out better financially. I saved a lot of money for my UK trip. So what I wanted to talk about really quickly is, I got to pull this album again, is this album here again, The Heads. This album, and a friend of mine, Tom, unknowingly, has kind of influenced how I'm thinking about Record Store Day is I went to I got a Record Store Day album from my friend Tom that he needed, and I went over to his house on this past weekend to drop it off for him. And he was going on and on about he got a stack of Record Store Day titles, and he was playing them and loving them, and they're all records he didn't have, and he was telling me all about this album is great, and this album is great, and and Tom got albums that he doesn't have, like Wilco Live, Jason Isbell Live, albums you don't have, variant copies of, And then I was kind of trying to reciprocate, oh yeah, my Record Store Day titles, and I realized I haven't played any of mine. And I went through my records deciding what I was going to start playing next, once my stereo's hooked up, and all the Record Store Day titles I got, more or less, are albums I already have. Just I got different variants. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And then people started showing this album on YouTube. I'm starting to rethink what I do for Record Store Day. And I'm not trying to open a Pandora's box of comments like "see ha ha," Record Store Day sucks you into gimmick titles. I've been doing Record Store Day since the very first one when I was a Record Store Day owner. I wasn't a Record Store Day owner. No one owns Record Store Day, but I was owning a record store then. So I've been involved since the very beginning. I know the ins and outs of Record Store Day, and I know the gimmick things, and I know blah, 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 blah. And I've always kind of gone for a lot of gimmicky things because that, it scratches the itch of the collector in you. So let's put it that way. So I don't get sucked in because, there's the collector side of you, and then there's the side of you that wants records to play. And I've kind of always sided with kind of scratching the itch of the collector in me, where you get a variant of Madonna, or what did I get this year? A variant of Prince, Bowie stuff that you already have. What else did I get? See, I've already forgotten. Oh, Pink Floyd, Piper at the Gates of Dawn, which I already have 4 copies of, or whatever it is. And I'm starting to think now that, I'm only going to start buying titles that I don't have, things that I'm going to play. I think I've scratched that itch enough of the collector in me. Vinyl Richie, for instance, his video, he gets a lot of records he doesn't have, things he doesn't know. It looks interesting, so he buys it. And I think I'm going to kind of go down that route from now on. Starting to get titles that people are recommending, things I don't have. And it's all thanks to this album and people showing this album, and and my friend Tom, for instance, just making me rethink Record Store Day and how I'm going to approach it. I'll never stop doing it. I love Record Store Day. I know some of you don't. To each their own. I don't go on your videos and start telling you how much I love Record Store Day. Anyways, like I said, I just wanted to kind of, it was kind of an epiphany, more or less. I think I used that word twice today. Of how I'm going to reapproach Record Store Day, and like I said, get stuff I don't have, and I think that will serve me a lot better. Having records in my collection that I don't play, that are there just for collectability, isn't serving me any good anymore. And as Record Store Day titles go on in years, they actually lose value. If it's not like a day or two after Record Store Day, when the values, what I'm getting at, I can sell them, but I'm probably losing money on them, to be honest with you. Very few Record Store Day titles are worth anything down the line. And that's if you look at the history of records for Record Store Day, they peak, and then they go down, and then people don't want them. So, I just kind of wanted to share that with you. That's kind of what I'm thinking for Record Store Day. And it kind of ties into my last video, which was my Record Store Day video, or another video before that. Anyways, maybe tell me how, maybe are you feeling the same way? Are you not? Yeah, I don't know. Just, without dissing Record Store Day, I don't know. Does what I'm saying make sense to you? Anyways, without rambling too much about it, that was kind of a big revelation for me at my age, and having participated as a record store owner at the time, and someone who's been buying Record Store Day titles since the very beginning, is maybe it's time to experiment. Stop, get out of my box that I'm in, of my titles I'm cocksure of, and start experimenting a bit. So thank you very much. If you don't know this album, stream it online, investigate it, and then, if you like stoner, psych, space rocky noise stuff, you'll love this record. Anyways, Whew, this has been David Michael, aka Nazz Nomad. Thank you very much. Like and subscribe. Doesn't matter if you do. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next time with a video of some kind. Anyways, I'm only a couple months away from my London trip. I'm going to do a great video there like I did last year. I'm thinking about going to Paris, too. Maybe doing some record shopping. Who knows? Anyways, so like I said, my record finds, who knows? We'll film lots of other stuff. Anyways, thank you to all who came up to me at the record fair and said they knew me from this little channel here. I really do appreciate it. You were all really nice. Thanks to all you who came up to me and told me how goofy I am on these videos. That didn't mean so much to me. Anyways, hey Andy, and another guy I forgot to mention, Andy. Hope you enjoyed the free record I gave you. See, I'm very giving. I give people records. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next time.